So, what happens when the hidden flaws in our own minds meet the incredible power of artificial intelligence? Especially when we start putting that AI inside our most important institutions, like the justice system. That's exactly what we're going to dig into today. But first, let me ask you something. Think about the last time you made a snap judgment about someone or something. Are your decisions, truly your own? Or is there something else at play? Something humming away just under the surface? Well, that something else actually has a name. It's called implicit bias. And okay, let's unpack this definition a bit. It says it's traces of past experience. I like to think of it as, the ghost of everything you've ever seen or heard. It's not stuff you can consciously remember, but it's there, and it's shaping how you see the world right now. Basically, it's your brain taking all these little shortcuts, and it doesn't even bother to ask your permission first. All right, so that brings us to our first big idea, the brain's hidden shortcuts. And let's be super clear about this. We're not talking about some kind of personal failing here. This is a fundamental feature of how every single one of our brains is wired. I mean, just think about it. Every single second, your brain is just getting slammed with information. It's impossible to process all of it consciously. So to cope, it creates these mental shortcuts, rules of thumb. They're what help you decide in a split second if a situation feels safe or if you can trust someone. It's a really efficient system, but there's a catch, a side effect, if you will. Sometimes those shortcuts get built from the stereotypes and weird associations we pick up from, everywhere, and that can lead to biases we don't even realize we have. Okay, so here's the bottom line. This is a deeply, deeply human thing. But now this very human flaw is walking right into the courtroom, and it's not coming alone. It has a powerful new partner. And look, this is not some far-off science fiction idea. It is happening right now. Judges in places like Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and India are already using generative AI to help them do their jobs. And the promise? It's huge. I mean, who wouldn't want faster research, more efficient courts, maybe even better access to justice? But, and it's a big but, we're starting to find out that when you plug this shiny new tech into our old systems, you get a whole new category of headache. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. One of the big risks is that these AI models can, they hallucinate, which is a fancy way of saying they just make stuff up. And the scary part is, it sounds totally plausible. It's not just a jumble of words, it sounds real. Just imagine for a second a judge basing a critical decision on a legal case that never actually happened. So the risk isn't just that the AI is biased, it's that it can be confidently, convincingly, and completely wrong, nudging a judge's thinking without them even realizing it. So this all leads to a massive question, right? If our own biases are unconscious and the AI's biases are buried deep inside billions of lines of code, how on earth can we even measure any of this? Well, believe it or not, there's a way. Let's take a look at the science. Okay, so scientists came up with this really clever tool called the implicit association test, or IAT for short. Now, what's cool about it is that it doesn't ask you what you think you believe. Nope. Instead, it measures your reaction time. It sees how quickly your brain connects different concepts, like pairing words for good and bad with, say, pictures of different groups of people. The idea is really simple. The faster you make a connection, the stronger that automatic association is in your brain. It's like a little window into those hidden mental shortcuts we were just talking about. All right, so the test gives us a bunch of data, but the big question is, does it matter in the real world? To get a feel for this, let's talk about baseball. So in baseball, the actual statistical effect of a player's raw skill on what happens in a single at-bat is honestly tiny. That number you see there, R equals 0.056, that's a measure of how strong that link is. And I mean, looking at it, it seems pretty insignificant, doesn't it? Well, in a multi-million-dollar sport, a tiny edge like that is everything. It's the difference between winning and losing. Now get this. The measured effect of implicit bias, how well it predicts actual discriminatory behavior, is more than double that baseball number. Suddenly, that small effect doesn't feel so small anymore, does it? And just to really drive this point home, look at this table. We're talking about things like aspirin preventing heart attacks or chemotherapy helping someone survive cancer. These are medical interventions that have small statistical effects, but we know they save lives. And look at the number for implicit bias predicting behavior. It's several times stronger than all of them. It just goes to show that these seemingly small effects, when they happen over and over again across millions of interactions, they add up to something huge. Okay, so I think we've established that human bias is real, it's measurable, and it's significant. Now let's switch gears and compare that to the new kid on the block, machine bias. Think of it this way. Our biases come from, well, from life, our experiences, our culture, the way our brains are wired. And an AI's bias, it comes from one place. It's training data. And if you train an AI on the raw, unfiltered internet, with all its history and all its prejudices, guess what it's going to learn? And here's the key difference. Human bias might show up as a gut feeling, right? A split-second judgment. But machine bias, that can look like a totally made-up fact or a system that quietly makes inequality worse on a massive scale, all while looking perfectly neutral and objective. You know, this visual is actually a great metaphor for what's happening. What you're looking at is how scientists do something called a meta-analysis. They start with thousands of studies and filter them down and down and down, trying to find the real evidence. Well, AI systems do pretty much the same thing, but instead of scientific studies, they're filtering terabytes of data from the internet. And in both cases, the most important question is the same. What slips through the filter? What hidden biases are making it all the way to the end? Okay, so this brings us to maybe the most important question of all. We've got these two parallel problems, one that's baked into our minds and one that's being coded into our machines. So can we actually fix these flaws? Well, for the machines, it turns out there's a pretty clear framework people are talking about. Step 1, you always have a human in the loop, someone to double-check what the AI is spitting out. Step 2, use better data. Train these things on trusted, carefully vetted datasets, not just the wild west of the internet. 3, figure out who's responsible when it goes wrong. You need clear lines of accountability. And finally, number 4, you have to constantly audit these systems. Check them, test them, and keep refining them. It really is a solid plan. And that seems doable, right? We can update software, we can fix code. But what about us? How do you push a software update to the 86 billion neurons in the human brain? Yeah, that's where this gets a whole lot trickier. So the go-to solution you always hear about is implicit bias training. And don't get me wrong, the research shows it can be good for a couple of things. It can definitely make people aware that implicit bias is a thing, and it can motivate them to want to do something about it. But, and this is a really big but, the evidence that it actually changes people's behavior in any lasting way is, well, it's not great. Take this one big study. It found that training had basically zero effect on the number of female faculty that were hired. So yeah, it's not a simple fix, not at all. So, where does that leave us? Well, let me introduce one last idea. This one's from computer science. It's called behavioral equivalence, and it's actually pretty simple. The idea is that two systems are basically the same if someone on the outside can't tell the difference between what they produce. It doesn't matter if one system is a human brain and the other is a complex algorithm. If they both give you the same flawed, biased results, then for all practical purposes, they're the same. And that brings us right to our final and I think most provocative question. We have this very real, very human problem of bias. And now we have this powerful technology that seems to just be mirroring our own flaws right back at us. So if we take a human process that we know is flawed and we replace it with an AI that turns out to be just as flawed, have we actually made any progress? Are those two systems not behaviorally equivalent? Have we really solved anything? Or have we just taken the problem of injustice and hidden it inside a new, high-tech black box that's even harder to challenge?